you see each other?
As I can, as long as I can see yours.
Not a bad idea.
Okay, that way I don't have to go to you, to you, to you.
Yeah.
If I don't see any lights, I'm.
And it's easier for a quick glance down versus like trying to get your head over.
Yeah.
And,
No, just did you hear that?
Oh, like,
I don't know what you want to speak.
Are you gonna be able to see his
I
back
need
there?
him to move it so that I can see it. We're not doing it tonight.
Okay.
Tonight.
All right.
Call this workshop to order at 5 o'clock, 5:01. And let me start with a little information. This meeting will be conducted utilizing teleconference communications and will be recorded for live streaming as well as open to public attendance, subject to social distancing and applicable health orders. All City of Beaumont public meetings will be available via live streaming and made available to the city's official YouTube webpage. Please use the following link during the meeting for live stream access, and that's beaumont.gov/livestream. And we'll start with, do we have any comment? No, let's start with call to order.
Roll call, is that what you're?
Yes,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
okay.
roll call.
Mayor White,
Yes,
Mayor
here.
Pro Tem Martinez,
here.
Councilmember Finn,
Here.
Councilmember Santos,
Here.
Councilmember Lara.
Here.
Right, do we have any public comments at this point?
Olivia, do we have any callers on the line?
There are no callers on the line at this time.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with the first item, second draft fiscal year 2023 citywide budget. You have 30 minutes. Let's go.
Sticking.
Okay, you can have a little longer.
Good evening, everyone. This is Budget Take Two, our second review of what we talked about. Can everyone see the presentation? There we go. So just a little overview of our April 27th workshop for fiscal year '23. The budget provides for revenues of $60.7 million and expenses of $40.7 million for unprogrammed balance of $20 million, and that was before enhancement requests. You had enhancements total $5.2 million and add 22.5 FTEs. And ongoing expenses for future years total $3.6 million. And general fund capital projects requests total $937,400, and that included Michigan Avenue Storm Drain Culvert Crossing for $30,200. Mid-year street enhancement program, $907,200, and that $907,200 is a backfill of the Measure A revenue loss from the WRCOG agreement. At that meeting, council directed changes for enhancement requests was with economic development for the downtown incentive package, reducing that from $700,000 to $500,000. And then an addition of a position to support economic development with setting up and administering the forthcoming downtown programs. And that's a $168,000 add. So that left an unprogrammed available resources in general fund after enhancements and CIP total of $13.9 million. And the use of unprogrammed available resources was recommended to be used on one-time expenditures, taking into consideration the long-term financial forecast. And we'll go to the next slide for that. So staff recommended options for that $13.9 million is additional funds for Stewart Park of $4.75 million. Memorial Plaza, that's a new project of $1.75 million. Cameras for that project at $50,000, and additional funds for Cherry Channel, and that would be $250,000 for a total of $6.8 million. Now, that would leave 7.1 million available for appropriation throughout the year.
So I know there's been some discussion about the WRCOG settlement, and I just wanted to update council real quick in the middle of Jennifer's presentation. I have been in communication with our executive director. I have not heard back from him. I do understand that it is an acceptable discussion. In other words, they are open to it. It's just now getting to the point of the amount, and I don't have that tonight for you.
Can I jump quickly on that? I mean, on that 9.4, are we paying interest on that or just straightforward 9.4?
Yeah, they're taking, it's 60% of the Measure A revenue up until the point that the 9.4 is paid off, and no interest.
No interest on that?
Right.
And then for how many years on that? I mean, to pay off this 9.4 after the 60%?
The agreement is for 15 years, but with the Measure A estimates that we were calculating, it would be paid off in approximately 10.
Even the Measure 8 will be, sunset on a given year?
Yeah, yeah, because that's even larger than that. Mhm.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, real quick. The economic development position, the 168, that's just a fully burdened rate for, okay.
On that position, 168, what is that? I mean, one personal or two? Just one?
Yes.
What will be the title of that personal?
Management analyst.
Okay. And then, that will be, what's the full function of that individual? I'm just thinking of, instead of that, why don't we, get a consultant that, who knows more on other cities that will benefit us, giving us more information, what they're doing on one city to another city. If we do, get one person, I'm not saying that person will be concentrating only within the neighborhood in here instead of widen, the scope of the economic development will really expand. I mean, more ideas, more innovations, more, probably I would say, a good directions for the city. That's my thinking of that.
So,
That's a good point.
Mr. Santos, are you asking or suggesting that we go with a consultant instead of a position?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's a discussion for the five of us.
Oh, okay.
Rather than staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because on the staff, I will be, I would say, we have to factor in all the benefits and everything, and then is it a short-term or a long-term on that? And then, we have recession coming in. I mean, I'm not, looking on my crystal ball, it will happen. And, I'm not saying next year or 2 years. No, it's not. It's around the corner. So that's all, Mayor.
Okay, do you mind going back a screen or two? I just need to put the numbers back in my,
This one or the
so
one
there's
before?
13.9 million, and that's what we're calling one-time spending money, correct?
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
go to the next screen, please.
The one prior or the one after?
The next one forward. Okay. And these are recommendations that staff has based on our discussion last time?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, and the numbers are your numbers, not ours?
Correct.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
On these additional funds, first time I see it, on the Stewart Park, it's a additional. What's the total, outstanding right now? I mean, we haven't spent, the only thing we spend is our staff time on that, right? I mean, and what's the original plus this 4.7 million? What will be the grand total of that project?
Of the total project?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's actually farther down in the, oh,
I have
it's
that
a little
here.
over 7 million total. That's what we're hearing from the landscape architect. If we want to do everything that council directed us to do in the conceptual plan. And I want to say it's 7.2, 7.3, Doug?
That's
Total.
the total?
And we found that out after the budget, the initial budget hearing, and that's why we're recommending that in order to get to the goal line, we're gonna need more money. And so we're recommending that we put more money towards that park so that we can finish it.
So that's 4.75 would do that.
4.75 added to what's already been programmed.
Right, that's what I'm
yes.
saying, that would get you to
Yes.
the endpoint. And
Yes.
what reserves are we holding at this point? 25%? Or
50.
we're at 50% reserves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how many pages do you have in your PDF? PowerPoint?
And the PowerPoint, there's only 9 slides.
Let's go through those first, and then we'll come back and discuss the details of the different pages.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So this is the long-term financial forecast that you had seen previously at the last budget workshop. This is just adding in that position. And so we added in that management analyst position. And so you can see that without a debt service payment for a potential future police station, you can see that your revenues exceed your expenditures. Now, once you add in a debt service payment, there is a drop below for your revenues. So your expenses would exceed your revenues up until the point of about the last year out there on the forecast. So that's with the debt service payment, if you were going to go ahead and move forward with that. I'd like to note that in fiscal year '24 is where we have included extra staff for the new fire station, and we're including a recession. So there is a recession that is built into these long-term financial forecasts. This next long-term financial forecast is with a WRCOG settlement agreement payoff. So if you were to pay off that agreement, you can see that the payoff is happening in fiscal year '23 without a debt service payment. You can see how your trend line is going up. Knowing that there are some big projects coming down the line, though, you want to plan for that in your long term. And so we've included a possible debt service payment as well. And there's a dip below in fiscal year, sorry, my glasses, 26 and 27, 28. You're right about there, but it does offer you flexibility in those later years. And then these were just some changes that were recommended for some other funding sources, not general fund. Adding $750,000 to the Pennsylvania grade separation design, and that would be from Road and Bridge Diff. And then e-bike purchases for Bike Patrol program for 2 e-bikes and training for 2 officers. That would be from AQMD, and field training program reporting training software, $4,726 out of SLESA. So those were the only other changes that we had. Those were recent requests. And then that puts us to the end of the slide. So I can go back to that general fund slide if you'd like.
I would like, and others may want to go in a different direction, but for now, if you could go back to the first slide with 2 charts on it, the one without the WRCOG.
Okay.
Before I look at these, what do you recommend, that we pay off WRCOG or not?
So that it provides more flexibility going on in the future.
By
So then-
paying it off?
By paying it off, yes, absolutely.
I just wanted to look at the legend for just a minute or two. And explain again why the debt service payments go, no, go to the next page, please. This is with WRCOG.
Yeah, so what is happening is there's a planned backfill of the Measure A revenue loss to your streets program. So the general fund is making up for the difference of what you're losing in your Measure A. So that's been programmed in here year after year. And it's close to $1 million each year that you're having in that Measure A revenue loss. So to continue your streets program at the same level of service that you have been, you're backfilling that loss to continue that street program, and that's programmed into these forecasts. And so if you did pay off that agreement with WRCOG, you wouldn't have to do that backfill. And so that would release those funds and available for other programming.
There's a transfer that's happening in this forecast of almost $1 million that the general fund is moving to supplement the Measure A money that WRCOG will get. And so without that transfer, that stays in, that almost $1 million stays in the general fund, and that's why you see the different trend lines.
But on this page, both of these items are with us paying off the WRCOG, correct?
Correct.
Correct, because
So
your
why would there
second,
still be a debt service in?
the debt service would be a potential for the police station. If you wanted to fund that with debt, then there is a debt service option.
Okay, and is that fairly equal to the $1 million that we were using for WRCOG's debt
It's about
service?
2.5 million estimated.
2.5 million a year?
Yeah, yes,
Out of the general fund?
correct.
And go back a screen, please. Do you have the, that's the same thing there as well, right?
This is the same thing, yes, just with not paying off WRCOG.
Okay. And the other notes I wrote down here, the training 2 officers for the e-bikes, that's hiring 2 more officers, just using 2 that we already have?
No, it's just
Okay.
training.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
Just
go ahead.
real quick, on the debt service of 2.5, that's going to be for the police and fire station, or just the fire station only?
No, just the police
Just the
station.
police station.
Just the
Right.
police station?
So the
You won't have
fire
debt-
station contract award is coming, and that's roughly 7.3 million, and that will be paid out of the DIF, the development impact fees. The police station's going to be about 45-50 million.
And the debt service starts in 2023 for the police station. So we're going to set it aside and then start building the police station one day? Or are we going to bond and
it's-
play and start
Yeah.
building the police
No,
station?
it's, I'm sorry. So the assumptions in here, and I should have read these for you. So there are assumptions for these forecasts. You have recession years from fiscal year '24 through '26, a reduction in gas tax transfer in as more vehicles move to electric, using Pension 115 to reduce costs starting fiscal year '29. It includes all the enhancement requests. Beginning in the fiscal year '23, the general fund offsetting the loss of the Measure A revenue, okay, and that was a 60% reduction. Beginning in fiscal year '24, full operations of a new fire station. Beginning in fiscal year '24, 2 new positions added each fiscal year to maintain current service level. And then the beginning of fiscal year '25 is the option for city council to fund a new police station.
But still, in the plan here, when are we starting construction of a police station?
Well, there's dollars in fiscal year '23 budget for the design. And so it would all depend on the timing of that. And the reasoning for doing it and programming it into the financial forecast is understanding what you might have coming down the road and where you're looking to maybe possibly go and being able to plan for those dollars. So not making a lot of long-term commitments now if you do see yourself going in that direction later on.
So if we go 5, 6 years before we start actually building a police station, is the debt service going to not be there for the first 5 or 6 years?
Correct. I mean, you would only, and these are just estimates, right? So we
Sure.
ran a debt service schedule off of $45 million cost, and at the rates at what they were in December. So it's going to change depending on what's going on at the time when you are ready to actually build the police station. So
Would
and
that be
once the
rates from
design is
last,
final.
would that be rates from last summer?
December.
This summer, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we're done.
Oh, wait.
Nice try.
You're done.
Speak up. Speak up.
So,
Yeah,
Yep.
just gonna-
Go ahead.
so looking at this, you're anticipating a dip in the economy or recession, whatever you want to call it. Looks like 25, 26?
24
Starting
through,
in
24 through 26.
And what's the percentage on that? I didn't hear that. What are you anticipating a drop-off being?
So it varies in your different revenue sources, right? So you're looking at about 15% in sales tax. Your property tax would be about 7%. So and your services would be a little bit less, maybe about 5%. So it's a modest recession. It's not an aggressive recession that's programmed
Right.
in. Yeah.
Okay. So do we need to concern ourselves also at the same time with inflation that's occurring right now as far as our dollar not going as far as it did, say, a year ago? Is that something that you also need to calculate in
Yeah,
this
so
current?
there are some inflations that are built into this
Okay.
for the costs. I don't think that the rate that we're at now is sustainable, and I'm hoping will not continue at what we've seen. So it's.
You don't
it's-
think 8% is going to go higher?
Right, to continue at that level year after year, essentially. So you've got probably more of a 6 to 7% inflation each year that's built into the forecast.
Yeah, okay.
And what that does is you're planning out what you think your costs are, and they're gonna average out over time, right? When you have that recession that's gonna happen in 24 to 26. We'll know more as we get there, right? If we don't know for sure, it's just kind of going off of what everybody's saying, the economists and all that we're hearing, how we're gonna program that. The good news is that they're not projecting that property tax here and Inland Empire is gonna be maybe hit as hard as like other areas because of demand. So that's some of the things that they're talking about, and we can hope, we can hope. So this is just to give us a guideline, okay?
Right.
What are we planning for? Is it sustainable? What we're doing, are we gonna be able to sustain what we're doing by looking at this long-term plan? And it's just a good tool to use as you're planning for budgets so that you don't put yourself in a position to where later on you might have to dip into reserves to, take care of your costs.
And you're comfortable with the pursuit of the 9.4, paying that off and,
Yeah, that would give you the flexibility, I think. It would give you a long-term flexibility so that you're not having to backfill to cover for that streets program. If you wanted to continue your streets program at the
Right.
service level, you've been continuing that. And then that would be a council decision.
and then do you anticipate the option or to come back at mid-year for any adjustments for staffing? I know that planning may be short on staff, at least based on the amount of work that continues to come in. I mentioned it last time, I had a concern with dispatch. So I just want to make sure that we still have that flexibility built in as well, just in case staffing need to be adjusted.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's all I have, but I don't want to swear to it, so.
Okay. Real quick question. I do want to have the conversation about the economic development
Yeah, I
separate
get that.
after we get all the other questions over.
That's good.
So just real quick, the 23 new positions don't start day one of fiscal year. So have you built that in as far as our labor costs for next year?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Martinez, second guess.
Yeah, so the other funding changes, those categories are stated there where that funding's coming from, correct?
Correct.
None, okay.
Correct.
And then going back to the WRCOG, so assuming 9.4 is about correct, and we have 7.1, did we say where the difference was coming from? The 2 million that we still owe? So we wouldn't have a total payoff because we still have some left,
I think
correct?
part of the thought was that we would offer them less than 9.4.
Then you
Right.
try to negotiate, okay,
Right.
that's what I was hoping because there's nothing there.
I did ask our finance director to run the numbers on that, and I'm not comfortable discussing it now.
Yeah, of
but-
course. I
But we
agree.
are looking at a ballpark figure of where we think that is worth.
But as Mr. Lard just pointed out, we're at 50% reserve, so we could take what we need from there and still be well over our goal.
Okay, and with that moving forward to the police station now. So we had our last discussion with Chief that we're in dire needs now. And we're possibly looking at 5 years and so forth, 6 years or so before everything goes on. So we're gonna need something somewhere. And I know we're having little Band-Aids here and there, but anything that I see that's gonna be really working is gonna be in the few million range, I'm sure, to temporarily house us somewhere. So is it prudent to think about that now? Or, just assume while we've got a reserve, we can deal with that when the time comes?
We have a plan to move, how many positions, Chief, into Building C?
Right.
And that's already been programmed. That would last roughly a year or two. we're hoping to speed up that police. We have a presentation coming to council in August with a good conceptual. And we're hoping to speed that project up just because of the dire need for it.
So that moving, this is gonna help a little bit. Because the last
will.
time we talked, we
It
were
will.
talking about, moving everybody in somewhere, whatever, and this looks like that's gonna cover that instead. It's a little alternate type of concept, and then maybe speeding up the timeline. Okay, I just,
Are you okay if we bring the chief up to ask a couple of questions right now?
yeah, if you'd like to. I know we'll talk more about your plan and so forth, but I'm just cautious because I don't want to spend everything up front and then come back and say, okay, now we need this and this. And then you start going into your
Correct.
reserve and we
Correct.
have some economic downshift coming up.
But just as a reminder, your policy requires a 25% reserve, and you have double that, so.
Right. So Chief, what I wanted, a couple of months ago, we talked about the building Grace. And then you and I
Yes.
had sort of some follow-up conversations. Did that go, where did the Grace building discussion go?
Well, there's a lot of money that needs to be put into that building. The roof, it's dated, the windows, there's security measures. There's a lot of concerns with Grace. My concern with putting 2 or 3 million into it would be we're putting good money on perhaps bad money, right? It's just a temporary fix, and we're gonna put a lot of money into it to strengthen it. We looked at another option of a building that's for sale, it's on the market. That would take some less money to invest, but we're still gonna get close to 1.5 to 2 million. So then we looked at another building that's on city property. We had some concerns with that, not great concerns, but there's still some costs. And so we located building C that we're using right now for the gymnasium and those, right, so you gave us the green light Tuesday to get that stuff out of there and auction it. And so we can put some, we budgeted 750,000, we think we'll come under that, and that'll be 9 positions. That's gonna help some, and then with the parking that you've allowed Tuesday as well, that's gonna help. But the growth in the population and the programming that we do that addresses our needs, and like the city manager said, it'll get us a year or two. But, and I'm looking for storefronts. We don't have a lot of available buildings in this city, right? It's the same issue that the post office has. They're looking to move and expand, and so are we for these temporary fixes, and there's not a lot of options. So I'm keeping my eye out for a storefront. So if we can make a community substation somewhere in the, we need services in the north end, and we need to have a reach in the south end because of obviously the issues on the 10 in Pennsylvania and Highland Springs. The same issues that affect everybody affects your police department. So we're looking. But to answer that question, Grace Street seemed a very expensive option for a temporary fix.
But if we have a future for Grace Street for anything we've talked about before, I mean, those are repairs that we would need to do anyways, right? If you're telling me there's a problem with the roof and.
The roof is I think, and I don't know the rules on selling something that we know has a faulty roof. I think we have to fix it regardless. But there's a lot of demo and some things that need to happen inside Grace.
Okay.
Now, it just depends on the plan. So initially, when you and I talked, we're thinking this police department 6 to 10 years out. If we're looking to incur debt services, because in August, we're going to come to you, show you the concepts. Then, in speaking with our public works director, it's ambitious, but if we can get architecture to you within 16 months of that, and then we're ready to go shovel ready, and you all are committed to that, I'd rather not put 2 million or more into Grace. I really wouldn't want to do that. I'd rather use that money for architecture and try to stretch out some of these Band-Aid fixes. If we're not committed to that programming and we are looking at a 10-year wait, then I do need to add 15 to 20,000 square feet now.
That's sufficient. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Quick question, a quick comment on that, on the Grace. that area is a lot of historical history on that area.
Right.
And, if we will do a totally tear it down or not fixing it, that will change the textures on that particular area. That's my main concern on that area. There's a lot of history in there.
Right.
Next to that is the Hotel of Beaumont, Hotel Beaumont, and then next to that also on the east or west side of that is the, we call it, not the Bank of America, Bank of Beaumont in there. And that's in existence many, many hundred years on that. So I don't know. If we're gonna not improving that or something, I think the city should preserve some of the areas on that particular area. That's why we want the 6th Street to be a pedestrian friendly, so we could walk in there, build a good restaurants, have a beer craft on that area, and the antique shop in there will be beneficial for them to develop that area. That's when I joined this council, I saw that in there, and I'm glad that who owned that right there on the corner of 5th Street and California is still maintaining that building, but it's hard to rent.
Yeah.
That's the problem in that.
Yeah.
That's the comment I have.
So I think that we need, in a future agenda item, a discussion on the future of Grace, because I think that building is something, sort of what Mr. Santos is saying, that the city should preserve, maintain, and look at it as a possible anchor for what we're looking for as far as our downtown pedestrian.
No, the reason the history on that too, that's our city hall, way back then.
And our police
And
station.
the jail,
And-
And
right,
jail
the
too.
police station.
and the courthouse.
And then
school
on the
district.
on the back of that, I didn't realize this. There's a train station on the back of that, on the Luis Estrada. On that
But it
side.
is like a rat's maze inside.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the church did a great job suiting it to their needs. Our needs aren't to that. I wouldn't need to change the shell of it, but again, I really when I look at fiscal responsibility, I would not like to ask you for 2 to 3 million into it to say, hey, and a year after that or 2 years after that, we're leaving it. Because whoever may occupy it doesn't need to do what I need to do to it.
If you get it declared as a historical building, does that open us up to grants? Okay, so, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't have any questions for Chief.
Okay,
Okay, no, we'll go ahead and move on.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
I have a question in reference to the future debt service. What is our city's credit rating now? And if we pay off WRCOG, will that improve and therefore help us to get a better interest rate for future debt?
I don't know what our,
It was, the last time we had our credit ratings, I think we went with the wastewater bonds. And it was really well. It was good. I want to say it was like an A rating, so.
yeah.
But, I think they look more on your reserve levels and where you're sitting at and your revenues and kind of what your financials are saying. Not having that liability on there, of course, would always be a good thing because you're not having to use revenues to pay something off continuously. But as far as if it would change that rating, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
Can I interrupt?
Sure.
On this, Jennifer, the knowledge I have last year on the S&P rating we have, and when I started in here, we are not even rated. And then I jump into, B, jump into B, triple B. What is that rating? Is the credit rating. So I hope that will help us in here. Now, as of November, I did ask that. And because I'm doing a forecast for 2022 on the city, I like numbers, and it's a AA. That's why I'm proud of that. And some of the cities in here, I should not say this, they're not even close to us. We are AA, and the top of that is AAA. So we could go get a band I mean, and it's cheaper to do that on probably on Chip's project on that, the 45 million. And I did discuss this the previous last year, and I'm with it on this project. The 45 million on this, the debt service and everything, we don't want to pass it to the taxpayer, our residents, you and me. We don't want that. If possible, segregate that. That's why, to answer that, yes, we are double A. We are on top of the game of from 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We are there, so they could give us the lending if we want to. On that 45 million, that's why we got the 111 million. That's our rating. That was 2 years ago.
Do you have
All
more
right,
questions?
yeah, I got one more. Thanks, Ray. I appreciate the
you're
information. Thanks, Ray. We talked a little bit about potentially redoing the sports park and putting in sod. I'm going to call Doug Story up on this one. Do you have any ballpark idea of what it would be? Are we looking at $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? And if so, if we do this, I would imagine we'd be doing it in this coming fiscal year, correct?
I feel like I was just up here like a few hours ago being asked this question. I do not have definitive numbers. I do feel it's going to be an undertaking. I feel like it would probably be in the several $1 million if we chose to do artificial turf in all 4 fields. And we might come back and say, maybe right now we only put artificial turf in 2 fields. It doesn't obviously solve all our problems because there's a lot of fields up there that need to be addressed. So there's 4 soccer fields, there's 1 football field, and then the baseball field, outfield in the back, up in the top, the north end of the park. We might come up with a solution that says, let's just do the soccer fields on the southern section of the sports park. And I think we might be able to find some, when I was looking at some of the parks, some cost-saving measures of just putting the turf on the playing area. So maybe just the soccer field plus maybe 5 or 6 feet past the sidelines. And then everything else, just leave it as a regular turf that we would water once we're able to, once the water restrictions and everything change. So those are some of the cost-saving measures that I was looking at to see if we can have an artificial turf that would just be on the playing surface. But I haven't received those numbers yet on what they are. But I have reached out to some folks, and I'm trying to get them to give me some ballparks to see what that would cost.
Okay, and if this drug on past July 1st, then, and if we plan to do it this fiscal year, then we'd have to come back for a budget amendment to
Right.
do so, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I would assume, right? Assume. I think it's going to be hard for us to find, I mean, just in other projects and things that we're doing, is we're finding contractors are very far out, Rangel and all the other things that we've been doing. And so scheduling someone to fit in this fiscal year is going to be
Okay, so
exceptionally impossible.
There's a
But
potential then that
Correct.
could be for the following fiscal year.
correct, I would
Okay.
say so. And I
That's
think
good
it
to
would
know.
be more appropriate for, to just design it, come up with a good plan of what we want to do, get that number in front of you, and then figure out how we want to fund that.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
Can I interject again?
Oh, wait a
I'm
second.
good, Mayor.
Wait
Go
a
ahead.
second. Can you put the slide back up of the recommendations by staff? Thank you. Go ahead, Dave. Oh, you are, okay.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
on that, I mean, that information, again, I'm out there, and, his question, his questions about that, or his comment, is the, per square footage of the, turf right now. If we're gonna do it by ourselves, we'll be doing a, when I say ourselves, our staff, graded and everything, put all the things in there that, the sun, the granite type thing on top, it will cost us, as of now, even the materials high, is $4 to $7 per square foot,
Sure,
not per acre, so.
sure. No, I think that's probably the range that I would
I'm just giving
think.
you an idea on
Yeah.
that. So, yeah.
No,
So
I think-
I don't know how many square footage on the, we're planning to put the turf in there, so.
And it's definitely our intention with talking to our city manager about coming back to you guys with some definitive facts and some numbers so that we can really put that in front of you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So if there aren't any other pressing, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. We're good on setting aside money for recycled water, whatever that turns out, or is that going to be something we'd look at mid-year?
is not, we don't have a cost estimate yet. We don't have a decision. We
just-
had a committee meeting last night to talk about what we're going to do with the recycled water, but there are several options.
Okay. Last question, I think. I thought about, there was discussion where we were looking for something for Weaver's Mortuary, couldn't locate the plans, which got me thinking about potentially setting aside monies for a scanning contract to go along with our records retention policy, where we could start scanning. I know that we have to maintain commercial plans, as we don't have to worry about the residential, but maybe getting that done so that we can have them electronically and maybe look at making room and get it, so we can dispose of plans, and just a thought. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
And we can have more questions. I'd just like to get to the economic development.
Okay.
So I'm going to respond to what you
I
said.
got
You-
the comments and,
Yeah, so
on the slides.
my thought is I would prefer to have a dedicated additional employee. I think what we learned in the Economic Development Committee is there's a lot of business owners or property owners along Sixth Street that want to know that we're committed to an economic development program. And I think getting the additional, I like the suggestion that came up at the last workshop, was to have an additional employee. We can still go out for consulting services for, finding out what other cities are doing and, comparing what we're doing to what they're doing. But I think this original was to include an additional position for that, right? So
Yes. And we put all of the positions into the fiscal forecast.
okay, so the economic development position is not coming out of our additional one-time money, correct?
No, no,
Okay.
it's in the, so the one-time money amount that we talked about in the first budget meeting has changed. Not much, because you reduced the one program $200,000, and the
Okay.
management analyst went up, is 168. It's almost a wash. So your fiscal forecast includes that position, plus the other positions that we presented at the first meeting.
Okay, so what are the rest of the thoughts on the economic development?
Mr. Mayor, with my first year experience on that committee, I would support that position in-house as well. And in general, I only like going outside when we absolutely have to. I like the control that staff has in-house to be able to have better accountability for such things. And I agree with your statement on if we get the community out there to realize the importance that we're putting into it, I think it will be a benefit to both. It'll be a win-win.
And I'll add that the way it's written as a management analyst actually is a flexible position. So it's not just economic, it can be used in different areas, which makes the position flexible.
And that position will report directly to your deputy city manager.
Mr. Santos?
Yes, okay. On that position, I don't have a problem with that. My problem is, getting more open out there, not concentrating on not only on the Beaumont. I like to see other, like in Orange County, LA, San Bernardino, San Diego, that, could consult us on this, what they could do, like, being innovative, doing marketing and everything. And I don't want I want to see, a personal in here. Tell you the truth, I'm employee person. I like to keep my stuff in here. And I don't want, when things start slowing down, I don't want to lay off people, okay? That's why I like to see that, the forecast and everything. And I want to let me back up. It's hard to find a good employee. I like to impress employees. I like to, if they could stay here for another 100 years, I will keep them. That's the way I am. That's the reason, I don't want to jump in and then here comes the slowdown and everything. And then I'm not saying we will let that person go. But the thing is, it's nice to work hard and get a person that really worked for us and knows the knowledge of not only in Inland Empire, it's outside Inland Empire. on that.
Does-
That's my concern. on
Does
that.
Retail Coach provide those kinds of services?
They do, and of course, we also have Kyle. Kyle, do you want to talk about Retail Coach?
And also you could add to our conversation here?
Turn your microphone.
My defense.
There it is. It's on now.
No.
Better?
There you go.
Good? We're on.
Ooh,
All right.
you're too close.
Talk softly then. So the retail coach was hired to perform two major duties with us. One was the retail market analysis, which is the annual data sets on our demographics and psychographics. The second feature that their contract provides is business retail attraction. So they're out there calling different businesses, scheduling meetings with developers, working closely with staff on going through our priority list of which retailers we're currently working on and attracting on a daily basis. And they'll be walking around with us at ICSC in part of each of those meetings that they were scheduling. As it pertains to downtown redevelopment, those types of things, Retail Coach could help, but they're really in tune with the larger tenants, the brand name tenants throughout the nation. So if you're familiar with the hat pastrami, that is a California thing, I said, well, can you get us the hat? And they're like, well, we've never even heard of that. And that's because it's a California thing. It's a local chain that has maybe 7 stores, right? So I'm able to provide that contact information to them, and they can plug the pavement with that. But you can see where typical downtown redevelopment occurs with mom and pop shops. You don't often see a Chili's smack dab in the middle of a retail center, a Buffalo Wild Wings or a Yard House or something like that, that Retail Coach has those relationships with. So they could help us, but it will be somewhat limited in terms of what their specialty is versus what we'd be looking for in that downtown area. And I think most of the attraction for that is going to come from city staff. As it relates to the management analyst to aid and assist economic development, I think it would be beneficial to have that person as a staff person. Councilmember Santos, you talked about hiring a consultant to aid the redevelopment of the downtown. That was a separate enhancement sheet that still is in the budget request, and that's for that downtown revitalization plan, which takes the approved downtown specific plan, which was part of the general plan that council approved, and then bolsters that just from a planning document to a true implementation plan. And that's where we do need a consultant's help to itemize what we have in terms of assets within the downtown today and really put together an action plan on what steps need to be taken from now to get to that finish line that I think we all want to see.
So is the consultant cost already in the budget? Is that what you're saying?
It was part of the budget that you saw at the last meeting.
Okay, you do know now that people are going to be talking about how the hat's coming here, right? So you're going to have to perform on that.
I have called them umpteen times.
They
I will do my
great here.
best.
They would do great.
That's what I'm telling them.
Can I interject, Mayor?
Yeah, okay.
Quickly on this. I mean, I'm not talking about only the downtown. I'm talking about the other land available that the developers seeking in the area. We have to reach out a consultant or a good, I would say, person that could reach out on all this landowner in here. I'm talking about the one in across the street of Rite Aid. I'm talking about the back of the that what you call that swap meet, and across the street of that. And then more on the side of here in 79. I'm talking about that. I mean, even the Beaumont Avenue and Oak Valley Parkway on that. And some of the developers in there they're expressing already, they're interested in Beaumont, but nobody, I should not say nobody. I mean, because of the plan we have is not really appropriate for them to invest in here. I think if we need, a consultant and everything, consult us on a different level, a higher level than specifically downtown only, I think it will be beneficial for us. I mean, throw numbers in there. When I say throw a number, a budget, that consultant will be on a high level coming from other counties on this. That's not only downtown. I mean, thank you, Mayor.
So when you get your new management analyst, you can put them on that job, finding somebody.
I can do that. I've been in contact with every single one of those properties. I know the property owner. Retail Coach does help us on those properties. I must have misunderstood what the question was, so I apologize. On all the rest of town, those big properties, and especially the ones that Councilmember Santos touched on, is we're in contact with those landowners probably more than they want us to be, because we have interest. And some of those are just coming down to business economics in terms of why some of those deals have not happened. But I assure you that we're definitely working on them and hopefully get some good news in the near future.
I think from what we saw with ED Suite, the economic development website, that will do a lot of what you're talking about. It'll promote those empty spots, and it also shows the different other businesses around those sites, so that people can, prospects can go and see what the opportunities are.
Yeah, we need our marketing out there.
Right. Are there any other
Yes.
questions? Okay.
On the slide, would you kindly put it back on the, it shows the, with, what you call that, with the revenue and the forecast?
The debt relief.
What you call that? There you go.
There you go.
On this side, I'm just wondering, on this actual 2021 and the estimated income in there, our revenue is, our forecast. I'm not questioning the forecast. I mean, it's the way, the public consultant, the way you think. I mean, I know we are on the 60 million on the revenue in here. And then, if I look back on, is blue is the revenue, right? I mean,
No,
because
the
it doesn't
blue-
show here.
Yeah, we can't see the
I
legend right now.
cannot see the,
There you go.
There you go.
there, thank
They
you.
have control.
I like that, I'm that kind of person. I mean, the expenses is the blue, and then I'm looking on this one here. Okay, on the revenue of 2020, the actual, the sales and property tax combined is around 12,000,500,000. That's our main revenue. Okay, and then in 2021, we have the actual revenue in there is 14 something. We went up, right? Even there's a pandemic in there during that period. And I know that, I mean, because I'm so tied up during these years in here. And then it jumped, and we did forecast that. And when I say did, I mean, I was talking to the previous, and we know that it will go up to 30 million on this, the revenue. Now, our proposed right now is the 2023 still going up to 32 million or 33 million on this. Why it doesn't show? I'm more on numbers, on a spreadsheet person. I'm looking in here. It doesn't show or tell me where this is coming from on this one in here, because I'm looking at our main sales and property taxes in this.
So in your current fiscal year,
Yeah.
we've had a significant increase in your sales tax. So it's increased about, what, 305%. So that's in your estimates for fiscal year '22 revenues.
Yeah, I could see that
Right.
people on.
Right, and so you get that one-time jump in this fiscal year, but then you're going to have your continued growth going into the projection for the next fiscal year. So you're going off a higher base, essentially, from your estimates into your next projections.
Okay, if I looking on this, chart in here, 2025, especially me, I mean, I'm looking at 2025, even on the real estate side, and it will drop. I mean, this, I'm very conservative person. I mean, because I invest my own. And the way I see here, it dropped only, not even 10%, it's only 7%, 6%. I'm looking in here, I don't know the number on this. And again, I'm protecting our staff.
So the drop you're talking about is from what year to what year?
I'm talking about 2025. I'm looking at the on
Are
the
you talking
graph
about
in
from
here.
2024, or are you talking?
2025. It
I
dropped,
am-
I mean, it dropped only the revenue. Because if you look in there on the 2025, 24, it
That's-
dropped only probably 5% or something.
Yeah,
And
that's what
then,
I'm asking. You're talking about the drop just from 24 to 25.
That's correct. And then,
You're not looking at the 23 where it's peaked at 23.
what I'm saying is, right now, the way I see it, it will drop more.
Okay,
On this.
you're expecting a more aggressive recession.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the reason I want that is as I said before, I like to hold everybody here. I want everybody on this side. Even I'm gone in here, I like to say hi to you guys and everything. And now you say, oh, okay, where are we gonna cut the expenses and everything? But here, it doesn't show. I mean, seems like our expenses is flat, but it's not really, it's going up. I mean, I look in here, that one is so conservative, but the way I see it is not maybe my thinking, but the revenue is not dropping that thing in there. In 2025, 26, 27, we'll be fine. I will go on here, on this side in here. Again, it's me. I mean,
But we have a 50% reserve and our goal is 25. Is that additional reserves enough
but
to?
let me answer that. I mean, our reserve is the 50% on that. That will eat it up quickly.
How much is the difference between 50 and 25% reserves?
Got that for you. It was in our last,
Let me ask you something
General fund
on
report.
numbers. How much is our 50% reserve as we close this 2022?
That's what I'm asking.
yes. So your estimated ending fund balance at the end of this fiscal year is 35.4 million. Your reserve policy is 25%
That's
of
about
annual
right.
operating expenditures. So you
Yes.
would need to reserve 15.18 million
For 25%.
for the 25%.
And you're saying right now, without any of the stuff we've talked about, we're at 50%.
You're
So
still-
that's, let me finish my train of thought. So that's 15 million additional over what we're expecting, right? Over our goal.
Actually, it's about, you're going to have a surplus, estimated surplus of about 20 million.
A little more than 50%.
Yes. So it's,
Okay.
and that's because of your increase in the sales tax that we received in this
But
fiscal
what I'm
year.
saying is the recommendations you made here does not cut into the 50% reserves, right?
Correct.
So what I'm getting at is the amount we're over our goal is between the 50 and the 25% is about 15 million?
Correct, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so what I wanted to ask you, once I knew that number, is how much more would you suggest that the revenue needs to drop in your conservative thought?
No, let me go back. I mean, I will not touch my reserve. I will not touch my reserve on this.
But
I will
which-
not
which-
even discuss the
Which
reserve.
reserve? The goal, our goal reserve?
The, whatever you got, the 32 million or 35 million, I know it's 35 million. On that, if I could hold that,
So did you want council to approve a goal of 50% reserves? I mean, that's what you're saying. You're saying you don't want to touch that 50%. Our goal right now is 25%. In order for Jennifer to get the numbers more comfortable for you, I think what you're saying is that you want us to change our goal from 25 to 50%, and then we will hold 50%.
I'm good on that. If possible, I don't want that touch on that 50%.
So that's what I'm saying. You would
Yeah.
like to see the council make that our goal. And then, because if our goal is 25%, my train of thought was, if we're worried about the revenue dropping 5 million in a year, which is a significant drop, but we're still under our goal, we have the flexibility that we need to be able to, I think that's the way you were planning this, is that you knew that if it got really bad, we have the extra reserves. And that's why we sort of have agreed not to, I think at this point, we've agreed to keep it at about 50%. But I'm saying, if you say we don't touch that at all, then that takes away Jennifer's planning here. She's gonna have to adjust the planning to show the revenue drop more for you to be comfortable. So my question to you is, did you want council to raise our goal?
My point is this one in here. The 15 million, you throw a number in there, 5 million. If it happened in 2024, that will eat it up, the 15 million reserve we have in there quickly, within 3 years.
Are you thinking we should forecast for 3 years of revenue dropping?
Not of the negative, yes.
Okay.
That's the way I see it on that. And then, buffer on another year of 2027 before we recover on that. And the history of United States, even in California, before it recover, you have 5 years to 6 years to recover. And I don't want that to happen to us. It happened, some of the city, if you look, the well-handled city is Redlands. Before they come in on the recession, they're the last one to come in recession because they have a very established, a very conservative council and staff in there.
In one of your earlier comments, you suggested that you didn't think this recession was going to be as severe as the one that you're talking about.
I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No.
So
I
Jennifer,
mean-
can you justify your planning here as opposed to the suggestion that Mr. Santos is talking about, so that the rest of us have a better idea of what level of reserves we should plan for?
Yeah, and actually, in speaking with some of our consultants, HDL being one of them on the sales tax side, they don't have a big plan drop in our projections with theirs. I actually went a little more aggressive than what they were going in theirs, and just to be kind of safe with the revenues. From what I have been on, the webinars I've been on, and the readings I've done through GFOA, they are not suggesting that it goes in back and forth, right, on whether it's going to be an aggressive recession or not. They're not thinking in this area is going to be. That is kind of what I have heard through a couple of those webinars and through our consultants. Things can change, so I could always do a more aggressive scenario if council would like. I will say that finance in our enhancement request that we had in this fiscal year budget was a forecasting software. And in that forecasting software, you can do different scenarios. And then we can use that and bring that forward too, to make you more comfortable.
You can run different models.
And I will also say too, that GFOA recommends only keeping a 2-month expenditures reserve. So we are well above what the recommended reserve is through GFOA. They also do say though, to look at your revenue sources, the volatility of them, and where you would be comfortable being. I would say that 50 would be fairly high in comparison. We can look at other cities and kind of get a basis of where they lie. And one of the things I believe that the Finance Committee has on their agenda is for policy review too. So
And
that's
what-
something that,
What is our 1-month expenditures approximately?
8% a month? Yeah, so 2 months would be 16%.
I'm talking about dollar amount.
I'd have to calculate that.
You don't have to,
I'm sorry, I'm not quite that fast.
okay. Any other comments? Sure, Mr. Finn.
Yes, thank you. Can you pull the slide back up that you had there? But I want to go to a different, I want to go to a different page. The long-term forecast with the WRCOG payoff. If you can go to that one. Okay, so with that payoff, and looking at on the right side, with debt service, we would add to our reserves a little bit in 2023, over 10 million in 2024, a little in 2025, and then our troubled year is 2026. I'm understanding that correct, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So if we're sitting on $35 million right now, and we add just $10 million in 2024, as you pointed out, that goes well over the 50%. What I've seen and learned in my experience is that as we hit recessions, they tend to recover quicker than they have in the past. I think technology helps with that and so forth. We're still a growing city. I lived through the 2008 real estate crash and so forth. But I thought we came out at fairly well once we had an equal number of buyers to sellers again. We're kind of flipped on that right now, and that's why the activity is low. But when you have a recession like that and you have homes changing hands when it was low, then you get that reassessed value back, and that helps in the recovery process of it. So to help move the conversation along, I am in support of paying off the WRCOG, going with the recommendations that staff has made in terms of funding the extra money towards Stewart Park and so forth. So if you go back to that slide. Yeah, so I'd like to see Stewart Park get finished. I'm a little unclear of what the Memorial Plaza project is. Would certainly like to see something come back, but I would be okay with setting aside funds for that, and then have a decision down the road and understand cameras that go with it. Cherry Channel, not a problem. So I would be okay with those staff recommendations as well. And I think we would be okay in dipping into reserves to cover things if we ended up a little short on what the payoff amount comes back from WRCOG. And I am surprised to hear that the consultants recommend only a 2-month reserve. In other government agencies, some of them go as far as 6 months. But if we can, if we've got industry experts that's saying 2, then we're sitting on plenty of money. And I've been an advocate where I came from before of, if you've got too much in reserves, then perhaps you may have overtaxed your constituents before, so put that money to good use. But be smart about it, and I appreciate staff's conservative approach in terms of what those projections are. And what's nice is we can look at this every single year. And so that's my recommendation, and hopefully we can move this towards a decision.
Actually, we have mid-budget reviews.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so we can look at it every
Okay.
6 months.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
I just put in my 2 cents. So I do agree with Councilmember Finn. My focus, though, is to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the recycled water, as Councilmember Lar brought up, because we're talking about the tertiary water and the fat water and all the equipment that's going to come with that, and that's coming up soon. So I do want to make sure that we have that in the back of our mind, and then, of course, anything else that goes with that we might need as far as collection and so forth of that. But I'm in support of that, and I am a little unclear about the Memorial Plaza myself as well.
So what we've done so far is we've gotten a concept. What I recommended to the committee was to bring that back to council to show us what we have and what we're looking at, to get council's input on that. So that was something hopefully we'll see
Yes.
at one of our meetings next month.
This is
It's
out front. Reworking out front, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
no
yes,
other
yes.
location beyond that?
Just
Okay,
out front.
all right,
Yeah,
thank you.
It's to maintain and open it up. What's happened is, and one of the things I was pushing was, we had it's fenced off, and so we can no longer add names to the back of the war memorials, unless we remove that fence. Well, to be able to remove that fence, it's taken a little bit of time and effort, but we're to that point now. But we want to open it up so that when we have the parades or the memorials, or there'll be places for people to sit down, it'll be more ADA compliant, so that, because we have the veterans that are, or any elderly. And it's exciting to see, and it'll be a gem for City Hall to really set that off. So they will be bringing it back next month. Okay.
And a follow-up, thank you.
Yes.
we're obviously rearranging City Hall, and we had funds set aside for that. And then we had a concept of what it was gonna look like, and then, of course, some stuff that we were doing. So how are we on that? Do we have a focus to change the prior focus? Are we caught up with what we were supposed to do to this point? Or
And forgive me, you're talking about this remodel here?
the remodel here, I mean, some of that included the roof and the mold and all of that stuff that they've been fixing and so forth, and.
So
but
at
prior-
Tuesday night's meeting, council approved additional funding so that we could finish this project.
And how does that fit here? Just remind me where the funding is on that,
So it's building offices across the hall here
right?
to add more staff and open this up to customer service so that you don't have one square window with
Yeah.
one person. It opens up a portion of like where the kitchen and where finance is right now.
And then we approved for the new C building or
Correct.
for that.
Right.
And that's fine. And everything that we're going to future with that is still within our new vision. So it was a
Yes.
prior administration vision. I want to
Yes.
see if that's still a
Yes, it
vision for
is.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
And, all right, that's good. No, I'm in agreement.
Mr. Santos.
Hey, I'm okay on the 50% of reserve. Now, you mentioned, I salute you, I mean, on the finance, and you came a long way, man. I mean, finally, they said I was absent here last time. So, and you mentioned about the software on budgeting, on that, that's great. I mean, that's the thing that, looking at on this, hopefully, I don't know what kind of system you're gonna get. I mean, is every department could have access on that to modify or change or adjust their budget?
So there's 3 modules to the software. One is a labor costing module, another is for pension, and then the other goes into, all those can roll into the financial forecast model. It's more on a higher level rather than
Yes.
department. It's how you build it. The biggest piece of it, though, is your labor portion. We actually just, me and Carrie sat in on another demo again today, looking at it. And so since the majority of your budget is in labor costs, it helps you to run different scenarios within your labor, to do different scenarios with your pension 115 and maybe additional payments to PERS and what that looks like, what it looks like in the long run, and then put it into the whole forecast together. So it doesn't really necessarily go on a department level,
Yeah.
but you can get there if you wanted to when it comes on the labor costing side. of it.
No, that's my point on that. That would be nice to have a unlock to, to have access on that forecast or budget.
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting at. So
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's
Yeah,
good.
and you can bring them up, so you can run different scenarios
Yeah.
and have it in meetings when you're doing discussions and just do different
I'm
scenarios
glad
in
that we're
there.
getting that software. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Lara, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
that's fine.
I concur with the direction that we're going. The only thing I have a question on is the 50% reserves. Shouldn't that be tied to something, for example, based on, I know that we tie it to our expenditures, right? And as our staffing level grows, so does our expenditures. But like you were saying, is it, when we anticipate for drops in the economy, I want to make sure that we're tying that number, that 50%, or whether it's 30% or 40%, whatever that number is, to help to, as Councilmember Finn touched on, is it going to be 2 months or is it 6 months? I kind of like to see those numbers, maybe at 6-month or mid-year review, just so that I know that, okay, we're using a 50-cent floor or 50% floor, excuse me, or a 30% floor. This is how long it'll last based on these staffing levels with these positions, because the first thing usually that goes are services, and that's the first thing that the public notices, right? So just so I have more, better comfort level of where we're at, I just don't want to sit on 50% for the sake of sitting on 50%. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. And final note, since you are the expert in the finance, I'm not going to challenge you, but at 6 months, I'm pretty sure 8.4% inflation's we're going to wish it was still 8.4%. But but we'll see what happens. That's just my doom and gloom prediction, but we'll see. Yes.
I got one more question. I don't expect this to happen, but it has happened in the past where the state of California has gone after other government agencies within the state for reserves. And so what some agencies have done is they've earmarked the reserves for certain items. And so as Mr. Laura brings that up, and we look at our reserves, can we tag those to certain things? Okay, this amount of money is going to go here, this amount's going to go there. And that should it get worse than we expect and the state were to have a budget deficit, we can at least account back to the state to say, we've planned for the following and here's the reserves to account for that. I don't know if that's needed or if it's happened at the city level, but I know it's happened with other government agencies. And so just a thought to add what Mr. Laura said.
You absolutely can commit your reserve. So you can do what's called, it's in your financial statements is committed reserve balance. And that is monies that have been committed by council for various projects or whatever it may be. And it shows committed. And then the council also has the ability to uncommit those funds. So there is some flexibility in doing that. And then it doesn't show as your total remaining bottom line that's not allocated to anything.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like 35 million is sitting out there
Correct.
with no purpose.
Correct. You can
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
do that.
Okay, thank you.
And that process is different from the CIP process?
Correct, because, yeah, your CIP would already be built into your numbers and your budget. So
Okay.
what I would recommend is after your next audit, so when you have financial audited numbers, you can look at that and then you can determine exactly what it is that you have and have an idea of where you want to commit any of those balances that's above maybe your 25%.
Okay. I will adjourn the meeting at 6:16.
Anybody?
Are you gonna double out or what, buddy?
I was going to until Elizabeth reached forward. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I was just trying to cut these guys off.
No,
so-
I understand that, and as
Okay.
soon as I finish what I'm gonna say, then you can adjourn the meeting. I just wanna go back and make sure, we talked about a scanning contract. I wanna make sure
For
we're
the
adding.
management, economic development management analyst? Is that-
No, Councilmember Lara brought up a scanning
Oh, scanning,
service.
yes.
I wanna make sure, so we're gonna add
We're
that
okay
in.
with
Is
that.
that a
Are
consensus?
you okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, and we will bring back for a future agenda item Grace Avenue,
Yes, please.
and we'll look at a historical, naming that a historical building. We'll go through that process, and that's about it. I just wanted to get consensus on the scanning.
You could put the Historical Society on that.
It's true.
So, okay.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you,
and-
Mayor.
And council is
done.
comfortable moving this budget forward for adoption on the June 21st
Yes,
agenda?
We have to set the public hearing.
Okay,
yes.
Okay,
thank you all very much for your work on the budget.
thank you.
For that gavel.